Alright, we're now going to look at the eye for the next couple of videos. And the eye is a pretty amazing structure, and it's evolved in animals. And we're looking in particular at the human eye. But all the mammals and other vertebrates, the animals with backbones, they've all evolved the eye just like the human eye. And even other groups of animals, like some invertebrates, like the insects and things like squids, they've all evolved eyes that are a little bit different than ours, but they still serve the same purpose of letting an animal see. So the first thing, before we look at the detail of the eye, is just to think about how do we actually see in general. And let's just look at a small situation. If we have some grass and a tree with the sun and a small little insect flying around. And then if we're looking at a person who's actually looking, the way that we see is that light is reflecting off an object and then into our eye. So normally when we're outside, all of the light is coming originally from the sun. So if we look directly at the sun, which is actually really dangerous, as we know, the light is coming from the sun directly into our eyes. But to be able to see a tree, the light is reflecting off the tree and then coming into our eyes, or reflecting lower down onto the trunk and up into our eyes. The same for hitting the insect or hitting the ground, letting us see the grass. So to be able to see anything, light is reflecting off an object and then into our eyes. So we see by light reflecting off objects. Into our eyes. Into our eyes. Alright, so now we're going to look at all of the details of the structure of the eye. So naming the different parts. And we'll go in order of from the outside to the inside. So the first structure at the very front of the eye is called the cornea. And that's this clear covering around at the front of the eye. Then there's a small space that's filled with liquid inside here, and that's called the aqueous humor. Aqueous humor. Aqueous because it's watery and it's clear. Then we have the dark hole in the middle of our eye, which is called the pupil. And this is where light goes in, as after it reflects from an object. And the reason that the pupil exists, that there's a hole, is because there's a donut-shaped structure around it with a hole in the middle, and that's called the iris. Then behind the iris and the pupil, we've got this curved structure here, and that's called the lens. And we can see that it's shaped just like a lens that we've learnt about earlier. so its job is to bend the light. And we can see this, the lens in the eye is a convex lens. Then connecting to both sides of the lens, we've got some muscles, and they can stretch the lens to make it narrower or wider. And these muscles are called the ciliary muscles. Ciliary muscles. Then the whole outer coating, all the way around the eye, this thick white area, is called the sclera. And that's made up of tough tissue that holds the eyeball and gives it a bit of strength. Then on the inside of the sclera is completely full of liquid, all in this orange area in here. And this liquid is called the vitreous humor. And that liquid keeps the eyeball as a solid round shape, so it doesn't collapse and become smaller. Then along the inside of the sclera, all the way around the back of the eyeball, this is called the retina. And the retina is like the projector screen, where the light hits after it comes through the pupil. Then at the back here, we have a nerve which takes the information from the light and sends it back to the brain. And this is called the optic nerve. So nerves always carry information to the brain or away from the brain. And one final thing is there's a small space right where the optic nerve joins, and this is called the optic disc. Okay, another thing we can do is look at the eye from the front view, which we can see down here. So the iris, that's always the coloured part of the eye. So in this eye it's blue, but we know that different people can have different coloured eyes. So the iris is the coloured part. The pupil is the black hole at the middle where the light goes through. So the light passes all the way through. And then the white that we can see on the outside of people's eyes, that's the sclera, the hard outer coating.